Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Rizzy Pow. Okay, no, I shouldn't do that. What's going on, guys? My name is Johnny. I'm the coach of your Cologne Conkeldurrs, and welcome back for our second match of the NPL Tryout tournament. We're going up against Super Mio. Really cool dude. Talked to him a lot. He's the new GPC analyst, so really hyped to face him. And he has a scary team, which you can see 6 out of 8 months right before you. He has Decidueye, Azel, Volcanion, Tornadus, Therian, Zygarde, 50%. He has a Magearna. He also has a Scolipede. And what was the last thing I prepped for? A Mega Tyranitar. So overall a really threatening roster, especially to our team. But I think we have some means we can use to play around him. First things, he swept the other two people in our division with the Zygarde 50%. You can never let it get up a substitute or a Dragon Dance for free. Keep that in mind. Second thing, Tornadus Therian outspeeds my entire team. Bad. Third thing, Azel speed ties with my fastest mon. Not good. Fourth thing, Manaphy wrecks him. Getting on to the good part, an offensive Tailblow Manaphy with Ancient Power, Ice Beam, and Surf is brutal versus him. I can run a Modest Nature since his speed tiers are kinda messed up if I don't want to speed tie with the Zygarde, which can't hit me for too much damage unless it's fully invested. Unless it's Life Orb or at +1. I can comfortably run Modest with a lot of HP. Run a Tailblow set with Ancient Power to hit the Volcanion, Ice Beam to hit the Decidueye and the Tornadus, as well as the Zygarde and Surf. Now, I debated dropping Ice Beam for Shadow Ball to dodge the potential Yachi Berry on the Decidueye or the Zygarde, but I decided overall it's not worth it because I need this immediate damage for the aforementioned Zygarde 50%. My Modest Surf is also going to do a huge chunk of damage to his Magearna, which is somehow the Magearna sprite isn't showing in the picture. I don't know why Showdown does that, but it's actually a fault of the replay, so don't blame me, can't do anything about that. Okay, so this Manaphy has a lot of potential. As you can see in the matchup, he only brought Tornadus and Azels that are able to check it offensively, so I strongly suspect that the Decidueye will be a defensive check to a Manaphy, probably carrying a Yachi Berry or being like something Scarf, Leaf Blade sorta type thing. Okay, next up, as I mentioned, Tornadus Therian is a huge threat to our team. However, I can't run my Thundurus as bulky as I want because it's such a great offensive presence versus his team. I can't really afford to drop it for anything else. So I have a leftover Thundurus again with agility, same as last time. But the difference is that I am now running Thunderbolt, HP Ice, and Superpower. Superpower just to get more damage on the T-Tar because, again, if that gets to +1, I am in a lot of trouble. I can't ever let that happen. So yeah, I'm running Thunderbolt, HP Ice, Superpower, and Agility. Agility just for a potential late game sweep because he doesn't have too many priority options. Obviously, I'm expecting a Assault Vest Magearna to take on this Thundurus, which is going to be quite hard to deal with, but I have some things that are meant to check it and lure it, so you'll see that in a minute. Next up, Lucario, Sugar Berry, Sword Stance, Extreme Speed, Close Combat, Ice Punch. Adamant, again, same reasoning with Manaphy. I can't outspeed his faster stuff. I don't need much speed to outspeed his slower stuff. I'd rather have the HP for a potential setup. I have the Sugar Berry because Zygarde outspeeds me and could revenge me with 1,000 arrows. And nothing but a max speed Zygarde really makes sense versus my team. So yeah, I have SD, I have Ice Punch, and Close Combat. Pretty much his entire team. E-Speed can pick off a weakened Tornadus, Therian form, Azelf, or even a Scolipede with relative ease. Okay, next up we're going to my Clefable, which is probably the best set I've brought so far this tournament. It's a Life Orb Magic Guard Clefable with Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, Moonblast, and Healing Wish. It's max speed, timid, max special attack. Now what this allows me to do is I can outspeed the Volcanion if it runs Modest, and I don't think it will run timid versus my team. It doesn't really have a reason to. I can outspeed a Magearna, I can outspeed a T-Tar, I can still take a hit from the Tornadus and do half the amount of damage with Thunderbolt, I can really damage the Zygarde with a strong offensive Moonblast, which could otherwise potentially set up on a defensive Clefable if it's not running Ice Beam. I can really, I can take 1 or 2 hits and get off the huge damage, especially on his slower threats, because he won't expect my Clefable to outspeed and to have the damage output it will have. Defensively, I didn't feel like Clefable made a lot of sense because his main fairy checks are Volcanion and Scolipede. I would need different coverage moves pretty much to hit them, and Clefable defensively just gets overpowered by his team sorta. So I thought and also Magearna obviously, which kind of shreds Clefable in every single way possible. So I thought that the Life Orb offensive set have really great potential this game to lure in some of this fat stuff and potentially even get a hit off on his fast stuff that tries to pivot around a more defensive Clefable. Now, I really banked on this Clefable because with my Manaphy being an offensive Manaphy, I really like switch-ins for a Volcanion. I'm fully aware of that. I have some trouble switching into a offensive Tauren. So I really need to preserve this Clefable to get off the hits, or use this Clefable to lure those in and weaken those for a potential late game sweep with Lucario or Thundurus or Manaphy. Like especially getting a huge hit off on the Volcanion is key, or on the Tornadus. Now, next up, he has a Magearna. What's my Fairy Resist? You already know I'm bringing Arcanine, this time specially defensive. Morning Sun, Flare Blitz, HP Ice, and Toxic. Now, Toxic is for the Volcanion or the T-Tar switch, since close combat doesn't really cut it. Resist, even I don't want to lower my defensive. Flare Blitz obviously hits Magearna hard, and HP Ice is to prevent a max speed sub Dragon Dancing or Coiling Zygarde from just sweeping my team straight up. So yeah, HP Ice is to prevent that. I couldn't, because otherwise Arcanine is potentially set up for his Zygarde, which I could never ever allow. Our last one I put on was my Uxie. Again, I wanted rock support. His team's pretty weak to rocks. I wanted a Thunder Wave user, and I wanted U-Turn and Ice Punch. Thunder Wave and Ice Punch all help me with chipping away Scolipede, which is a huge threat to my team if I can't put it in E-Speed range, or if it carries a Chelan Berry, which is why I'm running a Tangaberry on this Uxie. I also have the potential to take a U-turn better from the Tornadus Therian or the Azef and get a slow U-turn out and gain momentum this way. So Uxie this time around is pretty fast. It has 68 speed EVs to probably outspeed his Volcanion and T-Tar and all those slow stuff, and get a Thunder Wave off on them or get up rocks before dying, because I really don't expect Uxie to take many hits. If I get in a situation where Volcanion is in, I'll probably go Uxie before anything else and try to get rocks up if I can't manage to do that earlier, and then die to the next hit and proceed to threaten out the Volcanion with my Thundurus or something else. So yeah, that's my team. You saw the matchup. He's bringing no Scolipede, which I was really happy about. No Mega T-Tar, which makes this, which would have been a threat, but arguably I could have played around it because I didn't get any setup opportunities versus my team. So I'm sort of happy with the team he brought, because Scolipede would have been a menace to face this game. And going into this game, I know Zygarde will probably be a max speed, max offensive sweeper. I know that Decidueye, as I said, will be probably an offensive or defensive check to my Manaphy. Tornadus versus my team can be both a V and Life Orb. I'm more expecting a Life Orb variant with coverage, because Knockoff, U-Turn, Hurricane, and Sludge Wave hit my defensive core pretty hard. Azef is a wild card. I can't really predict that. I have to heavily bank on Lucario and Clefable to be able to take on this Azef, but my Spadef Arcanine can also do that to an extent, depending how well I can deal with the Magearna. Now, also, other thing to note, I'm expecting more of a Spadef AV Magearna to take on the Thundurus, because otherwise his T just straight up loses to a Thundurus T. That being said, concerning lead matchup, as I said, my Uxie is Tangaberry, so I'm expecting a Tornadus or an Azef lead to get up rocks, or just to gain momentum by U-turning, or potentially knocking off. And even if the Tangaberry is knocked off, it's not that big of a deal, because Scolipede is around. I don't need to preserve it for that, and I can potentially just get up my rocks turn 1, or gain a lot of momentum by just U-turning out on his potential taunt or of taunt from the Azelf or the rocks from the Azelf and try to get a huge hit off immediately with potentially my life or Clefable. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm leading off with my Yuxi. As he leads off with Tornadus Therian. I'll try to get up my rocks. As he reveals the taunt, no big deal, I can get my rocks up later, and this just means that I can get a slow pivot, a slow U-turn out into another mon and gain momentum this way. Taunt is also really interesting because this confirms that he's not AV, which makes me think this is a Life Orb variant, which is pretty scary because I don't have many switch-ins. So yeah, he goes for a knockoff, which is fine, but still I would have preferred U-turn, and he reveals the Light Orb, which is cool. I get the U-turn out into my Thundurus. I know he can't beat me this early. I could just fire off an HP Ice because I predict his Zygarde to come in on the T-Bolt. And right here, I have the potential to... I have the potential to bluff a Choice Scarf because he brought in his Magearna. I went for HP Ice. Like, the HP Ice play bluffed the Scarf in the sense that if he wouldn't have brought in his Magearna, if I wasn't Scarfed, I didn't need to predict here, because I could have just clicked Thunderbolt and it's better the Zygarde on the next turn and HP Iced it then, not on the switch. So this here lets me actually preserve my, or bluff my Scarf pretty nicely, which I am fully aware of, which is why I hard switch out here instead of pivoting out, or hitting this Magearna. I have my defensive Arcanine, which can choose any hit, as you can see. The damage from the HP Ice and the Volt Switch damage actually tells me that it's a max HP, max attack, Assault Vest Magearna. The Volt Switch isn't too bad, but now the Volcanion is in, and the Volcanion is a threat. As I mentioned earlier, since Manaphy is offensive, I don't really have too many switch-ins to that, and I fully expected a sort of Bloom Doom Volcanion to be able to deal with the defensive Manaphy anyway. So right here what I'm going to do is go with my original plan. I have a relatively fast Yuxia, despite Yuxia probably dropping to this. I have a chance here to get my rocks up, which is going to be key with the Tornadus and the Azelf potentially being sashed, with the Tornadus being Life Orb and getting the residual damage off I need for E-Speed to sweep late game. Also to get the residual on the Volcanion, because that thing is a threat. So what I'm going to do here is pull a double switch out into my Yuxia, and as you can see, Steam Eruption does a hell of a lot of damage, no burn fortunately, and as I prep this thing outspeeds the Volcanion, which is beautiful. Speed creeping really paid off here. I can get up my Stealth Rocks, which is beautiful. Now Yuxi drops and I can just go straight into my Thundurus, which is a huge offensive presence versus his team. I'm gonna click T-Bolt. As I said, I'm 100% expecting the Bloom Doom, but as you can see, he's actually Wakamberry, so really good prep on his part, meaning he takes the Thunderbolt and hits me with a huge Steam Russian. But fortunately for him, he doesn't get a burn, which means I can 2-hit KO him. But now I have a problem because this thing doesn't take a hit from Tornadus T anymore, which is bad. So really great prep on his part, but since he revealed the Life Orb already, he revealed the knockoff already, and revealed the taunt already, I feel like his last move is more than likely going to be U-turn, which is why my Clef is a relatively safe switch in here. I can't be 2-hit KO'd by knockoff into a Hurricane. So I'm going, and I doubt he's going to risk a Hurricane miss versus Tornadus T, which is why I hard into my Clefairy. He sees the Life Orb, so he might guess I'm offensive, but still, I have no reason right here to not throw off a Thunderbolt. It does huge damage to this as he reveals the U-turn, which is good, and he goes into the Magearna, which chews this hit. Without a Life Orb, it does nothing. However, here comes another thing into play. I suspect him to predict my Arcanine, or because he Volt Switched last time, to predict my Thundurus T. Both are cool. However, which is what, and my Clefable, you have to remember, is EV'd to outspeed this Magearna. He doesn't know that. Despite being offensive, I don't think he expected a timid Clefable, which would be highly unlikely, I think. And in hindsight, potentially not even necessary, but I wanted to be safe, because if he's Shift Gear, he could potentially run Jolly, and so on and so forth. Or he could run Speed. So yeah. So I have a chance to hit this with a Fire Blast here, which granted would have been much more effective if I still had my Thundurus in the back, because then Thundurus still had a chance to sweep, but the Wakamberry kind of destroyed that plans. However, still, getting damage off on this and him losing an important pivot is key. Also, as I said, I don't want to switch into my Thundurus or my Arcanine here, because I feel like he predicts that and might get off a huge hit with his Magina here. So I'm just going to click Fire Blast, and Fire Blast is going to knock him out. Wait, that wasn't supposed to happen. I'm really sorry. Fire Blast isn't knock him out, obviously, but it does decent damage to the point where his Magina is low to 10%, which is beautiful for me, and my Arcanine is now freed up. Now, what this means here, that his Magina went down, while his Decidueye, his Azelf, and his Tornadus are still around, and my Arcanine is still at good health, means that now I still have 3 offensive mons, and I can use Arcanine as a pretty cool pivot into the mons, because I don't really need to care about Arcanine's health. I can really pivot them in, try to get off some chip damage to where my other mons can sweep. This is the game plan here. I know I can take any hit from this, so I go into Arcanine and just throw out a Flare Blitz, because... oh no, I throw out a Toxic because I suspected he might sack this Magina, but his other play might have been going into the Zygarde 10%. And even if he sacked Magina here, I still can throw out a Flare Blitz next turn. As you can see, get an additional round of leftovers, all dandy. Now he goes into Zygarde, and as I said before, I especially have HPIs for this situation because I think he brought sub Zygarde twice, and this I highly suspect this being a setup Zygarde as well. And if he gets up 1 Dragon Dance, this game might be over for me. So I have 1 player here, 1 play only. I can just click HPIs right here, and as you can see, he Dragon Dances up. So good thing I had the HPIs here. I do over half to him, which shows me that he's offensive. And right here I'm going to decide to sack off my Thundurus due to the incoming 1000 arrows, because with him being this low and 2 of his mons outspeeding me and 1 still taking a hit, it didn't have as much use anymore as my Arcanine at a good amount of health will have versus his other mons. So I had to keep that in mind. I sack him off to the 1000 arrows, which hits me obviously, and then I can go into my Manaphy, which chews up any hit, even an Outrage, even though it's going to hurt, and I can just revenge this thing with a safe Ice Beam. So yeah, it's relatively cool how we got out of this situation. I'm happy with that. He goes into his Turn T, and he misses the Hurricane. Now, this is big, because we can't really tell how the match would have gone from here if he had hit this Hurricane. Manaphy would have most likely dropped. However, afterwards I would have gotten a chance to go into my Arcanine and click Flare Blitz, and Flare Blitz pretty much meant that I get a kill this stage of the game. Torn would have dropped, Decidueye would have dropped after rocks, and Azelf would have dropped after rocks. And with this chip damage from the Arcanine and my Lucario probably being able to set up on the Decidueye and potentially even set up on this or winning the 50-50 with Taunt or Hurricane, even if he Hurricanes, I might not even need to set up because I do live 1 Hurricane from this Tornadus. So we can't really tell how much this miss mattered. I think I could have still pulled it off in the I think I still would have won, but this makes it a lot easier for me, as you'll see. The miss here means that I can clean knock out the Tornadus, which was one of the biggest threats to my team remaining. He goes into the Decidueye. I have no reason to risk my Arcanine at this point. I know that he can kill my Manaphy, or he is most likely prepped for that. I saw that at Teat matchup. However, I don't want to hard out into my Arcanine and weaken that to not be swept by Azelf late game. If it's a more bulky setup Azelf, it still has a chance to sweep me, even though of my strong E-speed in the back from Lucario. So what I'm going to do is just stay in, Ice Beam, he reveals the Yachi Berry, which is somewhat expected, and he can just kill me with a Leaf. Oh no, he U-turns out, which actually means that he takes an additional round of rocks on his Azelf, which is all I needed. Again with the Life Orb damage, now his Azelf is guaranteed in range of a E-speed, I think. But I'm still going to make the safe play here. Going into Arcanine, I know I can take any hits, I just click Flare Blitz. There's nothing else I can do. He sacks off the Decidueye. I don't know why. I think staying in with Azelf would have been the better play. Regardless, I can just go for Flare Blitz. I know I can tank a Psychic, which should be the strongest thing to hit me. Bam! Flare Blitz the Azelf, and we win. So we win 2-0 versus Mew. That was a great game. I'm really happy with how this turned out. My Life Orb Clefable set, my Arcanine put in a lot of work. Really good play on his part with the Wakam Berry on the Volcanion and the Ice Beam on the Ice Berry, the Yachi Berry on the Decidueye. So yeah, good game to Mio. Obviously, as always, his links will be down in the description for you to find. It was a pleasure recording for you as always. My name is Johnny, coach of your Cologne Conkeldurrs. God, I can't talk. Cheers, I'm out.